Hello? Hello, hello. I'm gonna do a quick audio check. I did not mean to completely cut off the music there. Let's see. Hello? Oh, there I am. Oh, wow. Do a quick audio check. I did not mean to completely cut off the music there. Let's see. Ah, there we go. Oh, it works. Oh, I love it. I've spent like, oh my goodness, maybe 2 months on all of this stream stuff. I am just a little nervous to start, but I think it looks good. Let me know what you guys think. Hello, hello. I apologize. I have been having horrible allergies lately. And I'm going to turn my phone down because I think audio stuff is good now. I hope, at least. Excuse me. Wow. Let's see. I am a little bit unprepared, but I'm going to do my best to catch up as soon as I can. Let's see. Need to shrink my chat box a bit. I don't need it that big. All right. Yeah. First stream ever on this channel, which is a little nerve-wracking. Thank you. I got this commissioned by Kitsu Senpai, a creator on VGen. I like VGen. It's really cool how you can just easily do art commissions on there and stuff. Goodness. Oh, and I have the chat box turned off on this screen too. All right. Hopefully that should show up too. Yeah, I believe I have Kitsu Senpai's VGen linked in the description. Yes, I do. Yeah, so the PNG tuber was made by Kitsu_CNPI AI on VGen, and then my icon was made by cake_art_OWO. So all credits to them for all the amazing art they've done for me. Definitely recommend. Both a pleasure to work with. So, tonight we're going to be doing just a short little reaction stream for my first ever stream. You stream a lot there, but you know, that's how it goes. Here is the backstory for this. About a week or two ago, I found this video by the YouTuber Moderngurlz, ending with a Z, called Disney's Adorkable Problem, with a funny face emoji in it. And it's all about Disney princesses and the trend of their modern princesses and how they've been quirky, I guess. And I watched it through like twice on my own, and I have a lot of thoughts. So this isn't meant to be an attack against Moderngurlz. I think some of their other work is pretty good. I haven't watched a lot of their channel. I'm not subscribed, but I think a lot of their other work is probably pretty good. This is just meant to be basically a discussion on their own thoughts and process on Disney's modern heroines and the issues I have with their arguments, basically. This isn't, a hate campaign. It's just me sharing my thoughts on someone's video, like, other people do. So, let's see if I can do this right. Okay. I've seen the channel before, and I don't think I don't know. They're not reactionary. They're definitely not. Definitely not anti-woke grifter. They are. I think they've said they're. Hello. Yeah. I mean, they do a lot of Disney videos. They do a lot of fashion videos. I mean, I think her pronouns are she, her. But they do a lot, and I watched a bit of their Lilo and Stitch thing, and it's like, yeah, same bestie. Oh, my chat box is hidden again. Oh, the things I do on accident. Yeah, I don't think there's anything wrong with them. I just don't like this video in particular of theirs, and I want to talk about it because I think having discussions about stuff we have opinions on is important. Yeah. All right, is there like a place I can just stash my popped out chat box? There we go. I think that's good. All right. And, oh, I got rid of it already. Wouldn't be a stream of mine if I don't mess up multiple times. Okay. It's so hard finding good critique of Disney from someone who loves older Disney on YouTube. It's all grifters. Yeah, a lot of it is those right-wing reactionary grifters, and there is a lot to be said about Disney in general. Obviously, I've talked about Disney before, and I will be talking about Disney again this Friday for my video coming out on Friday, and probably the continuation of my Lilo and Stitch video in the next 2 weeks or so. I'm trying not to be a Disney channel, but they're an animation god basically. So, like, of course I'm going to talk about them. But I don't remember where I was going at that point. Yeah, a lot of the people who complain about modern Disney are just right-wing grifters. I totally agree. All right, well, yeah, this video is about, oh my god, almost 2 years old. Ooh. So I don't want to take anything out of context. With my reaction streams, I don't want to also be like the type of person who just, sits and watches a video and just lets it play. I did pre-watch this video, and I do want to try to do that if I do other reaction streams in the future, just because if you can't tell by how I am right now, I am very disorganized without having a list of talking points. So I do have some talking points I want to specifically get to, but if I have any other thoughts or opinions that suddenly pop up in the watching of this 15-minute video, then I will probably share them as well. So I guess let's see if I can do audio balancing correct real quick. I did not hear a single thing. Oh, that's because I have the tab muted. That is embarrassing. Let's see. Oh, and it's, come on, unmute site. All right. I want to also fix my subtitles really quick. Options. I think it was this one. I think this was a font I like.
The problem with
Disney's I found out the other day that you can edit the caption settings on YouTube, and their casual font is just Comic Sans, and I thought that was funny. So let me just do another audio check. I want to also fix my
modern heroines. If you're familiar with this channel, then you already know that I sort of have a love-hate relationship with Disney.
And I mean, first of all, don't we all have a love-hate relationship? Sorry, I'm still doing an audio check. I really should have done this before stream. Oops. Alright, I can hear it on my phone, so it should be good. Let's restart this video.
The problem with Disney's modern heroines. If you're familiar with this channel, then you already know that I sort of have a love-hate relationship with Disney. On one hand, I have an immense amount of respect for what the company has done for the animation industry, and there's no denying that they've made some extraordinary films.
Yeah, a lot of Disney's animated leading men are not my favorite. They all kind of feel like they wanted to do Kristoff over and over again, and he was fun to be on as like complete opposite in Frozen, but now it's just like the same thing over and over again, which is kind of the problem that I think Moderngurlz here is trying to say about the female characters. But let's see.
the company has done for the animation
Awesome.
industry,
It does work.
and there's no denying that they've made some extraordinary films that generations of children and adults have adored. But on the other hand, in recent years, capitalism seems to be dictating the vast majority of their decisions, as opposed to sheer creativity and passion,
And doesn't capitalism just ruin everything?
resulting in the release of increasingly lackluster projects. At this point, I've made dozens of videos about Disney, from ranking their most iconic characters to debunking popular fan theories. So it really shouldn't be a surprise when I wind up having thoughts on their latest projects. Or at least that's what I thought. I recently posted a throwaway tweet in response to the trailer for Disney's upcoming animated movie, Wish, pointing out what I considered to be a recent pattern for the company. And my oh my, people sure got angry about it. Aside from the usual comments that wished physical harm on me,
Which aren't cool.
always fun to
Not
read,
cool.
the defenders of Disney fell into one of three camps. The first group insisted that there was in fact no recurring.
Okay, I do want to pause here to just look over some of these responses for this first group here, because I think this is where I personally fit in regards to responding to this. There are a lot of different female characters named here, and excuse me, I have a burp coming. There are a lot of female characters named here, and they do have a really good point. I mean, Raya and Mirabelle are not the same character. And, you know, if we can add them to, Elsa and Anna are definitely not adorkable. Though I did notice when watching this video, for some reason, all of these, like, Moana, Raya, Elsa, Merida, Anna, why do they all end with A? Like, Mirabelle doesn't, but why do most of these end with A? Is it like, what is with that? But yeah, I agree with some of these takes that are being flashed on screen right now. If we are counting all the modern Disney heroines that have been released in the last few years, they don't really have the same personalities. They're not quote unquote the adorkable characters, but yeah, I just think this is a really weird point because no, these responses do have a fair argument to be made here, and this is basically my argument too. Yeah, Vanellope acts less adorkable and more childish because she is a child. Like, that's something that I think goes on in the later part of the video. It's like, yeah, some of these characters are childish. First of all, this is kids media. It makes sense for the kids to be more, or not the kids, the characters to be more childish and kid friendly so the kids can relate better. But also, like, Vanellope is literally like, first of all, she's a video game character, so she doesn't have an age, but she's like 9 or 10 years old, you know? She's going to be an annoying little kid. I love that for her in the first movie, but she's not adorkable. She's just acting like a kid. Ooh, I should hit the space button on the right screen.
Personality amongst Disney's recent heroines, and that I was simply making it up. The second questioned why I cared at all, considering Disney movies are for kids. And
I think it is perfectly fine to care about media made for kids. I mean, actually, all of the videos I've made on this channel have been about kids media so far. I do plan on doing some more, I don't want to call them mature, but more, I guess, adult-oriented media. Like, I have a video about Frankenstein in the works. I have videos about Only Murders in the Building in the works. I've got videos for other adult media in the works too. But I think it's okay to be passionate for kids media because, you know, kids are our future. And I don't know if this is a hot take or what, but kids deserve good media. I don't know why this is just like such a hot take for some people. It's okay to care about kids movies as long as you have a balanced media diet. You don't just watch kids movies, but I think it's good to care about kids movies.
And I was way too old to be talking about it in the first place. The third group just called me a hater. And if lightly criticizing a multi-billion-dollar company that exploits its workers is being a hater, then I'm gonna have to get some new business cards made up. Because so many people seem genuinely baffled by my comments, in today's video, I'm going to explain exactly what I mean when I say Disney has an adorkable problem, and why I'm personally sick and tired of it. Let's get into it.
Yes, let's get into it.
Disney's entire brand has effectively been built on the backs of their female characters. with
Yeah,
1937's Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs jump-starting their fairy tale empire. And as the years have gone by,
I really don't like when people judge other people for simply liking kids slash family oriented stuff and act like someone is a weirdo. Yeah, I mean, it's just kids. Like, it's kids' movies. I don't think it's weird to like kids' stuff. I mean, I think as an adult, you shouldn't just be watching kids' stuff, but I'm not going to judge you for preferring like animated movies over live action movies because some animated movies are actually better. Like, the Spider-Verse films are beautiful. I think they're better than some of the live action Spider-Man movies. There's nothing wrong with liking kids stuff. Or kids slash family oriented stuff, like you said. It's just, it's important to have a balanced media diet so your brain develops properly, etc., etc. Communications degree.
they've not only become some of their most popular characters, but their most profitable as
Mm-hmm.
well. I don't really
Yeah,
want to get into all of the
capitalism.
nitty gritty details here, but if you watch my video about the evolution of the Disney princess formula, I discuss how Disney's female characters were directly influenced by the time period they were created, resulting in
Whoops.
occasional overlap in regard to their personalities, motivations, or stories. You can
Mm-hmm.
spot this in the films released during the Disney Renaissance, with the female characters all sharing a similar
Oof.
desire for more out of life, which just so happened to mirror third wave feminist movements of the time period. Ariel wants to learn more about the world. Belle wants more than a provincial existence. Jasmine wants to be more than a princess. Esmeralda wants more respect for herself and her people. See what I mean?
That is actually a really good argument. I think I might actually check out her video about the Burl Goss. Sorry, what? The girl bossification of Disney princesses. I think that would be a really interesting video. I think that would be a really interesting argument. So I might have to check that out after the stream because that does sound good. But I don't know if Esmeralda and Jasmine really fit into this wanting more out of their life. I haven't seen these movies in a while, so I really can't say anything for certain, and don't quote me on anything, but I feel like wanting to be more than a princess and wanting more respect for herself and her people, they kind of fit, but they just feel like a little awkwardly thrown in at the end there. But that's just my opinion.
Apart from this shared dream, the heroines from this era shared other personality traits like
And this is such a weird nitpick. Just this is just my personal opinion, but I really do not like the word heroin for some reason. There's just something about it that I don't know. Maybe it's because it sounds too much like a drug, but it's just a weird word. The Disney princesses are a lot more nuanced than people give them credit for. Yes, Paper McMalagor guy. Yes, Paper. Yes, I agree 100%. They are a lot more nuanced than people give them credit for. Like, I will always and forever be number one defender of Cinderella. She gets so much hate for just wanting to go to a party and finding a man in the process. Like, she didn't go to the ball to find someone to marry and get her out of her sucky life. She just wanted to go party for a night. Everything that happened after that is completely unrelated. Well, it's related to the ball, but it's unrelated to her being a weak character. And she's strong in her own way. I think a lot of modern discourse about Disney princesses of the old days, like Cinderella and Snow White, a lot of their modern discourse about them being weak is kind of just a weak argument on its own because these characters were strong characters. They just weren't strong in the way we see strength today. Like, Cinderella was always kind, Snow White was always kind and patient, you know? And I don't know, maybe it's just our society values kindness less, but they are a lot more nuanced, and I will forever defend the old Disney princesses because they get a lot more hate than they deserve. It helps if I'm clicked in the right screen
kindness,
again.
loyalty, independence, and passion, which made them easily identifiable role models that meshed well with Disney's pre existing brand identity.
Mm-hmm.
However, and here's where modern Disney could learn a thing or two, that's pretty much where the comparisons end.
Hmm.
And by no means are the female protagonists from the Disney Renaissance interchangeable.
All right, Paper. And yes, yes, Cinderella is an abuse victim. I would never call someone weak for staying in a bad household because when you look at her story, where else is she supposed to go? Where else is Cinderella supposed to go as a character? Her dad's dead, her mom's dead, she's living with her evil stepmother who basically enslaves her in a household, who is verbally and sometimes physically abusive to her, and she is a woman, a young woman, in like, I don't know what time period she's in. The not quite medieval times, that like weird section of medieval times between Renaissance. I don't know what time she's from, but in a place and time where women don't really have a lot of power. She's not weak. She's just in a bad situation. And so what if a prince gives her an opportunity to get out? She just got lucky. She was able to get out not just because she got lucky, but because at the dance she was kind, and that left an impression on the prince. She was kind and she didn't go after him the way a lot of other girls were going after him. She just wanted to party, and dancing with the prince was a cool bonus. And the prince saw her like, hey, this girl didn't want to immediately date me. That's kind of wicked. I think I'm in love with her.
Changeable with one another. While their positive attributes took notes from Disney's You Go Girl formula, it was
You
their
go, girl.
negative personality traits that helped make them distinct. Megara is snarky and jaded. Belle is stern and opinionated. Mulan is clumsy and self-conscious. Ariel is naive and mischievous, while Jane is prissy and eccentric. Besides these
Okay, 2 points here. One, you could argue that this trend of overlapping character traits is also happening with this Adorkable trend too. Why can we have overlap with personality traits be okay for Disney Renaissance characters, but not their modern characters? Like, sure, it's fine for all these characters to be kind and independent, but when they start sharing a same sense of humor, that's where we draw the line. I just don't think this argument is that strong. And I also wouldn't say eccentric is a negative personality trait, or if Jane is really that eccentric, but I also haven't seen Tarzan in a long time, so I can't really say more than that. Also, Ariel was already passionate about the human world before she even saw Eric. Also, Eric is a sweetheart and really loves her for her even without her voice. Yes! Yes, 100%. Yeah, Ariel was already like pretty hyper-focused and super obsessed with the human world before she saved Prince Eric. I think she would have done whatever it took to go be where humans are, and I love that for her. And Eric is just a sweetheart who falls in love with this girl who can't really talk very well and loves her even without her voice. And I think it's just a sweet love story.
flaws, making the characters relatable to their similarly imperfect audience, it also had the added benefit of making their challenges and eventual growth unique to them. Disney's modern heroines are severely lacking in this department, with the vast majority sharing the same generically adorkable personality.
No. I'm just gonna come out here and say no. Actually, hold on. Let me see if I can pull this up right. I do not agree with this point at all. And I spent like a good maybe hour or so on this the other day. Let's see. Here we go. I made a PowerPoint presentation to refute this point because I think the modern Disney characters do have negative traits in their personality, and I can't believe that I'm actually going to have to defend Raya and the Last Dragon in this because I really did not like this movie. But let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. Come on. There we go. Cool transition. So, Rapunzel. She is naive. She is overly trusting, and she's a little impulsive. But that can kind of be the naive and overly trusting can be related to her upbringing being, locked in a tower for almost 18 years of her life. Moving on to Anna, the next Disney princess, who is also naive. She's also a little impulsive and overly idealistic. But it makes sense for her and Rapunzel to have similar personality traits, even negative ones, because they had a pretty similar upbringing where they were both raised isolated. So both of these characters being socially awkward makes sense. And I think Anna is definitely a lot more impulsive than Rapunzel is in their respective films. Anna wants to marry a man she just met the day of, Elsa's coronation. She also decides, without any proper clothing, to go after her sister in like a dead winter storm. Like, she's very impulsive. I love her for it. Frozen is a lot better than people give it credit for, but not as good as the marketing did for it, if that makes any sense. Moving on to Moana, who is, unlike the others, not really all that quirky. I wonder why. She is headstrong, reckless, and stubborn. Yes, Anna would be too trusting too, they have very similar backstories, so their similar personality traits make sense. But Moana, on the other hand, had a very different backstory. She's being raised to be a chief of her people, so it makes sense that she's headstrong and reckless and stubborn. Um, I think my screen is delayed a lot more than I thought it would be. That might be something I want to fix later in the future to get more immediate reactions. Whoops, did not mean to pull that back up. Come on. All right. Now, you've got me defending Raya and the Last Dragon. Can't believe this. So, Raya. I don't know, is she a Disney princess? I guess she's technically a princess. Hello, Skelly Bonnie's 80 Art. Welcome. Hi, Skelly. New subscriber. Welcome, welcome. So, Raya. She is distrustful. She is guarded. She is pretty cynical. Like you said earlier, Paper, with the male characters in Disney films being overly cynical, I think Raya fits into that category pretty well too. Her movie was not the best. There were some really pretty animated shots I can give it credit for, but I did not like the story or the themes of this movie, and I really didn't like Raya herself all that much. But that's, mostly my own opinion there talking. Ooh. Oh, I can use the scroll wheel on my mouse. All right. Okay. Mirabelle Madrigal. I know she's not technically a princess, but she's one of the modern heroines. I hate that word. One of the modern heroines, and she's still talked about a lot in this video. And Mirabelle also has that similar quirky humor to Rapunzel and Anna, but where the difference comes is that she's a little more. I don't know if these words are the right words to try to describe what I'm trying to explain. She's definitely more anxious and overcompensating because she lives in a family where everyone has a magical gift except her. So she's always trying to be seen by her family, and that can come off in a very anxious and overcompensating and kind of self-sacrificial way. I mean, at the very climax of Encanto, which spoilers by the way if you haven't seen Encanto yet, her trying to get the miracle candle before the house falls down around her is a little self-sacrificial because she might not have known if she was going to survive that or not, but her family meant more to her than herself. And I think that's a good and bad negative trait, if that makes any sense. And okay, so I haven't seen Wish yet, so Asha might be the only actually adorkable Disney heroine on this list. I don't intend to see Wish anytime soon, unless, I don't know, you guys really want me to. It doesn't seem like a really good movie from what I've seen of the reviews, but I think she kind of falls into it just based on the trailers that I've seen, which kind of sucks because this is like, it was Disney's 100th movie. They could have let the animators put a little more effort into the story, but that's neither here nor there. I do admit I feel like Kristoff's sarcasm was only successful because he is kind of parroting the bad faith criticisms of the older princesses when he argues with Anna. Yes, I think it was very purposeful to have Kristoff be kind of the exact opposite of Anna, kind of like an opposites attract thing, very cute. But I do want more sincere characters. I think I just want more sincere characters in general, like more sincere male characters, more sincere female characters. Talking is hard. Asha is annoyingly adorkable. Yes, from what I've seen of the reviews, she seems to be a little annoying. Then I think I have one more slide. Yes. So I will give Moderngurlz the credit here. If anyone deserves the quirky descriptor, it's these three technically, but again, they all have reasons to be quote unquote quirky or socially awkward, because just based off their backgrounds, like Anna, Rapunzel, grew up isolated with no one else really to talk to. Mirabelle grew up as the black sheep of the family, as I talk about in my one video on my channel about the powerless protagonist that you should definitely go watch if you haven't already. Yeah, I saw Wish, but I can't confirm she is mostly she is in the trailer for the whole movie. Okay, that's great. Good to know. Good to know. All right, let's see if I can do this correctly. Split capture off. Okay. Now where to go? Where to go? There we go. Okay. Yes, I had a PowerPoint ready for this. See, this is the fun part about watching the videos ahead of time. I can create fun PowerPoints. So,
Because a lot of dorks in film and TV have also been nerds, a lot of people mistakenly believe that adorkability has something to do with a character's intelligence, but the two aren't mutually exclusive. Traditionally,
mm-hmm,
a dork simply refers to someone who is socially inept to a degree that it's actually detrimental and annoying. But when
mm-hmm.
someone is adorkable, it means that they're awkward in a way that is considered cute. Get it? There were a
Yes,
few
I get
male
it.
Disney characters like Hercules and Quasimodo who had these traits, but I'm going to credit Rapunzel from 2010's Tangled as the blueprint for this persisting character type. She's awkward, talkative, clumsy, excitable, sassy, and naive. In other words, she's quirky, but in a way that's adorable, allowing her to remain likable in spite of traits that might otherwise be perceived as negative. I'm
And again, Rapunzel does have a reason for her to be adorkable or socially inexperienced. I mean, she was literally locked in a tower for 18 years and fed lies to by a woman that kidnapped her as a baby. She's got a reason to be excitable, naive, and talkative and awkward and sassy. Yes, I have seen the concept art for Wish. It does look really good. I do love the like Rise of the Guardians Jack Frost. They could have taken the Starboy. I love concept art of movies, especially animated movies, but man, does it make me really sad to see the concept art next to the finished product. I mean, the concept art for Frozen looked amazing, and then we got Frozen, which isn't a bad movie, but still
by no means
could have been
saying that these
better.
personality traits weren't present in Disney's female characters prior to this
Mm-hmm.
point, but it's the exact combination of these attributes that made Rapunzel unique, at least at the time.
Mm-hmm.
These personality traits, which might have been depicted as flaws in earlier Disney protagonists, are re-established as strengths for Rapunzel. Where Jane's klutziness
I think kind of yes and no. I think some of her flaws of being like overly excitable and some of the flaws of being adorkable are played off as her strengths, but also some of it is also played off as a weakness in the film. I think it can go both ways.
nearly got her killed, Rapunzel's helps her knock out Flynn. Where
And I don't think knocking out a man with a frying pan is klutzy. I think it's just lucky.
Ariel's naivete made her sign a deal with the Sea Witch, Rapunzel's helps her befriend a group of ruffians. Where Mulan's awkwardness ruined her meeting with the matchmaker, Rapunzel's endears her to Flynn. I don't really think that Disney set out to make Rapunzel the new standard when they created her. In fact, I think she was just supposed to be the polar opposite of the mature, humble, and hardworking Tiana.
Yeah, I can see that. Rapunzel's only other human interaction was one of the best modern Disney villains, Mother Gothel. Yes, and I think she was a last straightforward villain with a song. I do miss the classic Disney villain a lot. Man, one day, maybe one day it'll come back to us. I can only hope. But yeah, I mean, her only other human interaction was her quote unquote mother, who was not actually her mother. And the other interaction she had was with a chameleon named Pascal. So she hasn't had a lot of human interaction.
But in
Give
the
her a
wake of
break.
Tangled's success, Rapunzel's popularity wound up influencing all of the other Disney films that were in development at the time. And as a result, Vanellope von Schweetz from 2012's Wreck-It Ralph and Anna from 2013's
Vanellope. I'm sorry, I'm just reading the subtitles. Vanellope von Schweetz from 2010's Wet Ralph. Yeah.
Frozen have personalities that are incredibly reminiscent of Rapunzel's,
Pascal is the best. Agreed.
albeit in Vanellope's case, it's dialed up to 1,000.
Okay. Like I said earlier in this before we even really started getting into this video, Vanellope is like 9 or 10 years old at oldest. She is a child. She is going to be childish. She is going to be immature because she is a child. She doesn't really fit the adorkable thing. Like, she is adorable. She is I guess kind of a bit of a dork with quirky humor, but the reason it's dialed up to 1,000, like you argue, is because she is a child from a video game about sugar and sweets. She's going to be a child.
I'm adorable! Obviously, there.
And she does have a very adorable character design. I will give them credit for that. I am just gonna put that up a bit. The great thing about streaming is you learn you need to move some stuff on your setup to see better.
There were the occasional exceptions, like Anna's sister Elsa, or Merida from 2012's Brave, which is technically a Pixar property, but people kept bringing her up, so whatever. Yes, you're right, she is an Adorkable, and
I guess Disney Pixar does count, and she is not Adorkable. I agree, yeah.
love her for that. While Rapunzel may have been the blueprint, Anna became the standard, with her character having the same quirky traits, but with an added self-deprecating, fourth wall breaking, overly explanatory sense of humor that would become a staple of Disney's Adorkable formula.
And again, Anna had a very similar upbringing to Rapunzel. She was also isolated and alone for most of her childhood, only being let out into the world to see the world when Elsa was to be coronated for after 10 years. I don't know how old she is in the original film. So, yeah, some overlap makes sense again. And I agree, Frozen is kind of like Rapunzel is like the proto-clone of Anna. There's an argument in a CJDX video, the one about Tangled, where it was like proto-clone of Frozen, which I thought was very hilarious. I do think Frozen's sisterly message would feel a lot more sincere and even better if they took the Encanto approach of not just having a villain and the sisters' troubles were the conflict. Yes, that would have been so awesome. It would have been so great to see, sister stuff as the main force. Main conflict, I guess? Yeah. Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. That would have been really cool. They just didn't do it. They could have had so much cool stuff.
Following the ridiculous popularity of Frozen and other quirky female characters like Jessica Day from New Girl, the personality type continued to persist throughout the 2010s. Because if there's one thing Disney loves, it's money. And these girls sold.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely.
In 2016, Disney released Zootopia and Moana, with both films featuring the goofy protagonists that were beginning to define the brand.
What? I would not say Moana is goofy. Yes, Moana is more grounded, and the same goes for Judy. But they're not, quirky, adorkable. They just because comedy exists in these films does not mean they're all quirky girl protagonists. It just means there's comedy. And there's an argument later on here that I'm just going to discuss now because I want to. Judy does have some naivete to her, like Anna and Rapunzel do, but any person moving from the country to a big city would have a bit of that at first.
Although Judy and Moana are significantly more grounded and mature when compared to Anna
definitely
or Rapunzel,
more grounded in comparison.
Part because they have larger responsibilities, you'll note that they still have the same naive, chatty, and sassy behavior. They also share their predecessors' #relatable.
Archie Silver. Yes, Judy is not goofy either. I think one of the big problems that Moderngurlz is having here is the difference between comedy and quirkiness. I think that's the big thing that she is conflating here. Because having... How do I word this? They are animated films for kids, so having comedy in them makes sense. But also, they can be serious too. They can both exist at the same time. Gigi's story is more fish out of water. Yeah, more fish out of water, definitely. That's a better way to describe it. Because she's grounded, she's cunning, she's smart. She just doesn't know 100% how Zootopia, the city, works, but she learns pretty quickly, I think.
Humor, with Moana even getting the same klutzy joke as Rapunzel at one point.
because it's a callback, it's a throwback, it is a Easter egg. That's the point of that joke. Just like, haha, remember when Rapunzel did this? Moana did it too.
Five
And
years later,
also Moana doesn't have experience on boats, so of course she would be clumsy with some of the stuff on the boats or ships. I can't remember if they're called boats or ships in the film.
in 2021 came Encanto and Raya and the Last Dragon, and the Adorkable persona reared its ugly head once again. Mirabelle is the more traditionally awkward one of the two, with director Jared Bush describing her as, quote, imperfect and weird and quirky. So don't even try arguing with me about lumping her in the Adorkable category. As for Raya,
I won't argue with you about that. Mirabelle is quirky and weird, but you don't explore the reasons why she is that way in your argument. Mirabelle is the black sheep in the family, the only Madrigal without a gift. In a family of extraordinary people, Mirabelle is uncharmingly ordinary, so she's tried to learn some skills to make up for that. Yes, yes, and back to Moana, the movie clearly showed us how inexperienced Moana was and how it nearly got her killed twice. Yeah, I think for next stream I'm going to try to fix that delay because I'm getting these messages a lot later. And yeah, oh goodness, we're going to talk about Raya and the Last Dragon again. Okay.
similar to Judy and Moana, there's a maturity to her that makes her
Mm-hmm.
quirkiness significantly less obvious than the rest,
Okay.
which is
Okay. First of all, I do love that hair flip though. That's very sassy. Hold on, hold on, hold on. I'm skipping frame by frame because I want to get to that one frame. Come on. This right here. This right here. She is a child here. I don't think that argument works for the larger argument because this is not the character we follow throughout the film. Where is it? This character, not this character, sorry. This is a character we follow throughout the film. This is a character we follow throughout the film. She's not quirky. She is definitely not quirky here. All right. Hold on. We are going back to the slides because I have more to say. We are going back to the slides because I think the big issue that Moderngurlz is having with understanding the difference between the modern characters and the big issue Moderngurlz is having between the characters here is quirky humor versus slapstick. And I have definitions for this. And yes, Sisu is way more quirky than Raya. 100% agree paper. So, let's look at what I'm going to define as quirky humor. Quirky humor is reliant on being either self-deprecating or self-referential. Like Anna getting engaged to Hans at the start of Frozen and Elsa's reaction of, you can't marry a man you just met. This is the hashtag relatable humor. And it tries way too hard to be humor. Or tries way too hard to be humor. It does try way too hard to be humorous. And it also tries way too hard to be relatable. Like, I haven't seen all of Wish, but I have seen this in the trailer. Asha being out of breath at the start of the Welcome to Roses song because she's running. That is quirky humor. It is reliant on being self-deprecating, self-referential, and trying way too hard to be funny. On the other hand, there is modern slapstick. Slapstick humor is featured a lot in cartoons, but it's like funny faces, visual gags, etc. I'm using a very loosey-goosey definition here to try to make my point. So funny faces, visual gags, etc. That's kind of what I'm going to define as modern slapstick in this argument here. In 3D CGI animation, it can look a little funky or uncanny just due to the realistic textures and slightly realistic face proportions. Such like Moana versus the Kakamora scene. It is action-based, but it is also comedic. They're coconut pirates. Moana's reaction of them being coconuts makes sense as modern slapstick. It's not quirky, it's just a funny moment. And Raya eating food on Bones' boat. It is exaggerated facial expressions. That's what brings the humor because honestly, Raya is just a buzzkill the whole movie and her having funny faces is funny. That's not quirky, that's just modern slapstick. Hot take, King Magnifico looks better looking than Prince Hans. No, you don't have to have a joke about that. You do not have to have a joke about that. I agree. Alright, turn that off. And then pull that back up. Oh, I did it right. Let's go.
Comparison to Sisu's energy, she seems near catatonic in comparison.
Yeah.
But trust me, Raya still has her adorkable moment.
Again, not adorkable. That's not adorkable. That is just slapstick.
Yeah, I might be a little bit of a dragon nerd.
And she is a child there, so she can be quirky and relatable.
This is awkward. Not you're awkward, but just because I'm awkward. You're gorgeous. Wait, what?
Of course, you're always welcome to speak the truth here, Paper.
If I'm being honest, Sisu actually has a lot of the behaviors we've discussed thus far. But unlike Mirabelle, Anna, and Moana, who are at least likable, she's just an annoying dork.
Yeah, Sisu is annoying. And I honestly think part of her character is meant to be annoying. I mean, maybe that's a wild argument, but I think part of her character is meant to be annoying. I mean, she's the last dragon for a reason.
I had pretty high hopes for Disney's Wish, but Asha wound up being more of the same.
We all wished for better. Sorry.
With her sense of humor and even the voice acting being a direct copy of other heroines from the 2010s.
I'm here! Whew, just 1 second. Let me catch my breath.
Again, that is what I would argue would be quirky humor because it's trying too hard to be relatable.
Oh, I didn't mean, I wasn't, what? They're calling me, so I gotta.
And that's a quirky humor moment too, but it's actually kind of funny because she just ate pork and said it was good in front of a pig. She's going to be awkward there. And then this is another quirky humor moment, but that's because it's just a humor moment with Anna being herself, I guess. King Magnifico didn't grant the wish for the movie to be good. You're so right. You're so right.
Oh, here? Are you sure? Because I don't think I'm supposed to. Oh, okay.
Now, the movie hasn't come out yet, so maybe I'm wrong.
Nope. By now, the movie has come out, and you are kind of like 100% right from what I've heard.
And there's more to her than meets the eye, which I would love. But so far, when it comes to her personality, there doesn't seem to be anything about her that's unique. Just to really drive that point home,
I'm sorry, this is just going to be a little nitpick for, let me see if I can find that exact. Go back to the...
to her than meets the eye, which I would her that's unique. But so far,
No,
when
go
it
back
comes
to
to her
that one
personality,
scene. Come
there
on.
doesn't seem to be anything about her that's unique. Just to
This shot looks so unfinished. It looks like it's in a video game. It looks like it's an unrendered shot in a video game. And I do appreciate Disney trying to branch out into a more stylistic 2D approach, but they just did not nail it in Wish.
really drive that point home, let's imagine how all of these characters would act in the exact same situation. That's right, we're putting on our fanfiction hats.
Ooh.
The prompt is, they've been kidnapped by a stranger and are tied up in the back of a wagon.
Okay. Fanfiction time. That's my favorite hat. Fanfiction hat. Alright, so. And again, I have pre-watched this video, so. I have pre-watched this video, so I kind of know what's going into this, but let's look at Anna and Mirabelle getting kidnapped and put into the back of a wagon. I would not say either of them are completely helpless girls. Because Anna has spent years locked in the castle in Arendelle, and based off some of the action she was in Frozen 2, I think we could argue that she's more capable with a weapon than Mirabelle would be. Yes, Paper, fanfiction is great. And again, she's also pretty impulsive, as I discussed earlier. She ran off to get her sister without hesitation, wanted to marry Hans even though they just met, and I can see her impulsiveness surprising her captors enough to give her the edge. I don't see her taking them down. Oops, I dropped my hair clip that I've been playing with. I don't see her taking these captors down Mulan style, but I can definitely see her taking more physical action than Mirabelle, kind of like Esmeralda is doing right here. Maybe Anna doesn't have the best experience with swords, but I think She has the audacity to try, and I think that might spook her captors a bit. Mirabelle, on the other hand, is a lot more creative, I would think. Both girls are obviously physically fit. Just look at how Mirabelle saves that miracle candle at the climax of the film. And I think she would use her more creative passions to find a creative way out. Not like literally spontaneously sewing a decoy Mirabelle of herself to escape, though that would be funny. But she's not really a fighter. She's a quick thinker, though, and maybe better with her words than Anna would be. Maybe. I think maybe she would use like a spare sewing needle or something in her bag to pick a lock and find, or maybe even find a way to talk her way out, or something to that extent. I love fan fiction writing, it's so fun.
And Jane, or
Yes.
Tiana, a song.
Okay, I'm just gonna.
Now you could argue Anna and Mirabelle,
Oh, goodness.
Megara and Jane, or Tiana and Jasmine. But now think about Anna and Mirabelle. The differences aren't as obvious.
I feel like Mirabelle would be more willingly to try to peacefully. Yes, Paper. She would probably be more willing to try to peacefully talk it out with these people. I can, again, I would think she would be a quick thinker. She'd find a way to talk her way out. But she's also physically fit, and I just think it would be funny to imagine her like picking a lock with a sewing needle or something.
Now you could argue that this awkward quirkiness is because Disney wanted to have blatantly imperfect protagonists that their audience could relate to. But their characters have been messing up for literal decades. Or are we forgetting that Mulan's entire thing is that she's not the perfect daughter? They didn't have to make them go, bleh, I'm sorry, I'm so weird, to get that point across.
Not all of them are like that. Not all of them are that. Bleh, I'm so weird. That's such a weird comment to make. I'm sorry, Moderngurlz. That is such a weird comment to make when talking about female characters. I'm not going to say it, like, is 100% sexist, but it does feel a little chill out, you know?
With all of their modern characters having sassy zingers every few minutes, it often winds up feeling like Disney doesn't trust contemporary audiences to just sit and watch a movie without all the bells and whistles anymore.
I think this has less to do with Disney animated films, the zinger trend in writing, as it does with just general writing, like the Whedon-isms, the Russo brothers, the MCU. I think they're to blame for these zingers. I don't think it's 100% on the Disney female characters.
Soon enough, we're going to be at the theater, and Subway Surfer and soap cutting videos will be playing at the bottom of the screen just to keep people from dozing off.
Oh, God. Alright, that was a good one. That was a good joke.
Although this personality and humor style were initially intended to be a subversion of the elegant, soft-spoken, and well-mannered,
Vanellope's glitch feels so neurodivergent coded. It does. It does. Some of these characters do feel pretty neurodivergent coded, I will admit.
Heroines of the past, it feels terribly overdone at this point. And I even think that there are times when it's actively detrimental to the story. When it comes
Yes, I agree here. I think the writing and humor is very detrimental to modern storytelling, but it's also important to point out it's not just these adorkable female characters that are the problem. It's just writing in Western media in general.
When it comes to Rapunzel and even Anna to an extent, their adorkability can be logically.
Would Shrek also contribute to this problem of over-reliance on Whedon-isms? I don't think so. I mean, so starting out with like the original Shrek movie, it was meant to be like a satirical parody of Disney films. That was like the whole point in it, from what I understand. And it also came out kind of before, like the modern MCU. I think it's just, first of all, it's a classic, but I think it is separate from this problem of modern Whedon-isms and completely. It might be like the way that Rapunzel is the proto-clone of the marketing genius of Frozen. It might be something similar to that, but I wouldn't say it is a contributor to the problem of over-reliance on Whedon-isms and zingers and stuff. Because again, it was meant to be a comedy parody of Disney movies. At least from what I understand and from what I see of it. Oh, I hit the wrong button.
Explained. After all, they literally spend the majority of their lives secluded from others. But for Moana or Judy, their over-the-top awkwardness and jokester personas don't really make sense for their characters.
They don't have Joker personas. Sure, they make a joke every now and again, but jokes are a part of the writing, not the characters themselves. And a character can be funny and make a joke without it being a jokester persona. That's such a weird way to put it.
I also find this sort of "he's right behind me, isn't he" type of joke, which always seems like it's queued up for a laugh track, are not only painfully on the nose, but can even completely derail an emotional moment.
Again, that's an issue with writing and a whole different discussion that really isn't related to the adorkability of Disney characters.
Whatever happened to letting the audience reflect on what's just happened?
Yeah, I agree. Whatever did happen to letting the audience reflect, but that isn't an issue with the female characters. It's just an issue with writing in general. Yes, people do say a lot of modern fairy tale type movies do feel more humorous and satirical, often to their own detriment of the sincere moments. Yes, I agree. I watched The Princess Bride the other day. It is such a great film, and it is both hilarious and sincere about its core themes at the same time. And I miss when movies would be both. I think people have forgotten that movies can be both. They can be satirical, they can be funny, and they can also be sincere and emotional. But that's a writing issue, not a character issue. I think Moderngurlz' other big problem with this argument is that half of this video is spent complaining about modern writing issues that are unrelated to the characters. And yes, technically you can say that in writing you are writing the characters, but at the same time the characters are also, at least in my mind, a little divorced from the narrative itself. So I guess it's more of a like narrative narration versus the characters sort of deal.
Wait, how do I save a miracle?
Take, for instance, Mulan's battle sequence with the Huns. It was a life or death situation,
We will take
and Disney treated it as such. The only jokes were on Mushu's end, but considering he's an immortal dragon who is set up to be ill-mannered, it makes sense for him to act this way.
Yeah.
Whereas when it comes to Mulan, even though she's been shown to be a bit of an awkward jokester, in this moment she's taking the situation to heart, only cracking a smile after she succeeded at her task, because that's what would be realistic.
Yes,
Meanwhile,
agree.
when Moana is in a similarly life-threatening situation, she's still cracking unnecessary jokes. Why?
Their boat is turning into more boats!
Not to mention that many of these characters are supposed to exist in different...
No. I mean, two things with this. One, kids' movies nowadays do have considerably more comedy than I think they used to, and that can be a bit problematic sometimes. But also, the scene with Moana is not meant to be taken seriously. The Kakamora are coconut pirates. They're jokes of villains. It's not meant to be taken as seriously as the fight with Mulan that you just described. If you wanted a more accurate comparison between these two scenes, maybe a girl worth fighting for the funny scene with Moana, or the climax as the male soldiers dress up in drag would be a lot more appropriate in comparison between that scene in Moana and the scene in Mulan. And again, the humor is built on slapstick humor, which does look odd in CGI animation, but it's meant to be quirky, and I think the boat turning into more boats is a very reasonable response. I feel like they should have included any characters and retitled the video Modern Disney's Problem with Humor. Yes, I think that would have been a better argument that they could have gone with. I am grading you, Moderngurlz. You are so far getting a... I'll be generous. I'll give you a B so far. Because there are some good arguments I agree with in here, but also don't just center it on the female characters. I think this argument can also work towards the male characters too, and just humor in general. Anyway, where was I with my main point? Moana, the scene in Moana does not accurately compare to the scene in Mulan because they're both taken at different points in their films and they're both meant to have different themes with them. If we want to compare a more serious fight with in Moana's film, if we even want to call it a fight, the thing she does with Taka at the climax of the movie. So this whole argument just feels really disingenuous to compare these two fight scenes when they're done at different points and for different reasons. Mulan's fight with the Huns is meant to be dramatic. Moana's fight with the Kakamora is meant to be funny.
different countries.
This video is actually starting to get me a little heated. Oh my goodness.
time periods and even have different ages. Does it really make sense for them all to act the exact same way? I've seen people say, they're teenagers, which, like, obviously. But also, that doesn't mean that every 16-year-old has the same personality.
But they don't. Just because you're refusing to acknowledge the actual personalities of these Disney characters, just because you're refusing to recognize the differences does not mean there are no differences. There are differences. This is just a very superficial argument, I think, because there are differences between these characters if you actually watch and pay attention to the movies. The issue that you're having with these characters is not the characters themselves, but just the humor that is woven throughout the Disney films.
I actually find Disney's refusal to explore any other personalities to be a touch belittling, as if implying that they think everyone under 18 is silly and can't hold a conversation without going, "Wait, what?" I'm not a teenager, so it is a bit unfair of me to criticize the accuracy of these depictions, but I'd like to point out that when Tangled and Frozen were released, those princesses were older than I was, and yet I already found that I'd grown.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, same for me. That's crazy. Goodness.
Out of the behaviors they were exhibiting.
And okay, I hate using this excuse. I really do. But these films are for a child demographic. And, people of all ages can enjoy animated films. People can do whatever they want. But these films are for families and children. Having the characters have these silly and maybe even adorkable moments to make the kids laugh is just what they do nowadays. I don't particularly like it sometimes, but it's just what they do. I think they should change and go back to their sincere movies. But that probably ain't gonna happen anytime soon. And it doesn't look good to blame these larger writing issues on one single character quote-unquote archetype you have, when these problems also kind of appear in other films from other studios too. This adorkable personality, you can see it in other movies from, especially Illumination. So this isn't just a Disney problem either. But also, oh my god. I do agree with some of these points, but also, like, most of this video could be made more about Disney's humor than focusing just on the female characters.
I acknowledge that many of the Disney heroines from the past read as older than their actual ages, at least when it comes to Pocahontas, Esmeralda, Belle, and Tiana. But that doesn't
Pocahontas is a whole different issue that we don't want to talk about in this video.
make them any less real. At the end of the day, I think that Disney is trying to please and cater to everyone, choosing to stick to the formula that's been working for them for more than a decade. And as a result, instead of heroines who break the mold, we have the same character, just with a slightly different face.
Okay, so I will give her a point that there are some similarities between the new Disney heroines compared to the older ones, but I would argue that the similarities we see between them are similar to the argument she made earlier between the Renaissance Disney princesses, where kindness, passion, and independence, her argument with that, are all visible in the Disney Renaissance characters. I think some of that has changed to be more of this humorous approach to the modern girls. And kindness, passion, and independence are also visible in our modern girls too, but there's, again, more humor in these films that impacts them differently. And when they have similar-ish backstories, like with Rapunzel, Anna, and Mirabelle, there can be some overlap with some of those more socially awkward traits. I feel like I just separate the songs of Pocahontas from the actual problematic movie. Colors of the Wind is a banger. Yeah, it is a banger. I will give them this. They did cook with the music, but they burned everything else in that meal of a movie. I was trying to go somewhere with the metaphor, and I don't think it worked very well.
I feel like this lack of creativity and ingenuity points to a greater issue within Disney, hence all the sequels, reboots, and live-action remakes. But as a company that was repeatedly on the verge of bankruptcy in order to bring their creative vision to life, it's hard to believe how much they've sold out. Also, this is kind of unrelated to
Yeah, they have sold out, and it's kind of sad. I agree. They have sold out.
But have you noticed that in most Disney movies from the last decade, the female protagonist role in the story is some iteration of, you have to save the blank. It's in
What?
Frozen, Moana, Encanto, Raya and the Last Dragon, and now even Wish. It winds up feeling like an overcorrection for the bad faith criticisms of Disney's earlier films where the female characters allegedly didn't do anything, but instead
What? I need to process this for a second. I mean, the stakes have been getting higher in modern Disney movies because people like action adventure movies. And I don't think having like a plot to save or do something means they're all girl bosses. Yeah. Like I mean, yeah, paper. I'm just it's just slightly higher stakes compared to the old movies. But I mean, like, Mulan was save China. Belle was just save the beast. Jane becomes save the gorillas. So the argument could be used for them as well, too. I just don't think that's a very another strong argument, and it feels very tacked on and awkward at the end here.
it kind of comes across as the girl boss performative activism that
God,
I'm beginning to associate with Disney. Now, I'm sure that people will still wind up commenting, "What are you complaining for? You're not the target audience," which I must firmly disagree with.
Mm-hmm.
Disney makes family films, meaning they're for the entire family.
Yeah.
Not just children. And even if they were just for children, do kids not deserve to watch things that are actually good? Or should they
Yeah. No, I
only
agree.
watch Cocomelon until they go off to college? Just because
Oh God, only watching Cocomelon for 18 years? That is a horrifying thought. But no, I agree. You know, we should care about kids' media being good, even as adults, because the kids are our future, and they deserve to have good stories.
something is animated does not mean it's less deserving of criticism, just as it isn't less deserving of praise.
Yeah.
The reason I'm able to sit here and make videos about
Yeah, that's fair too. That's also very fair.
Disney, regardless of how many times they've disappointed me, is because I still respect the medium.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't feel the same, that's fine, but at least have respect for the people who do. What do you think about Disney's Adorkable heroines? I hope you enjoyed this video. Don't forget to
Well, I have many issues with your video, Moderngurlz, but I do agree with a few points. So, I guess if I had to, again, bring up the grading joke, I'd give it a solid C, maybe. I just think a lot of the arguments that are made in this video are kind of unrelated to the characters themselves and more the writing and the humor. There are a few outliers in this, like Asha from Wish obviously is a very obviously written adorkable character, and I haven't even seen the movie. But there are also some good points in there, and I am very curious about her video going into the way feminism impacted the Disney Renaissance. Yeah, there are some flaws in this. I probably would have taken some time to dive deeper into some of these arguments too, because maybe maybe if I had more knowledge on what kind of angle you were trying to go with, maybe I'd understand it a bit more. But again, the refusal to like acknowledge the negative personality traits of the modern Disney princesses and heroines, it just seems very superficial. Yeah, this is like my third time watching through this video, and I still feel the same like flummoxed, confused what at the very end, because yes, there are some adorable moments, but those are more relating to the writing than the actual characters. Like, yeah, like you said earlier, Paper, modern Disney's problem with humor would have been a lot more accurate to describe this video as and to take it more with the writing than with the characters. And I'm still thinking about how she compared the fight at the climax, well, not the climax, it's like the semi-climax. It's like the fight with the Huns on the mountain in Mulan to that fight in Moana with the Kakamora. I'm just still like perplexed that she chose to compare those two scenes because they are both very different moments. Also, the new Snow White's biggest problem is the humor and the Weedomisms, but nobody ever talks about that. Yeah. Yeah, a lot of the part of the I'm kind of on the fence with the modern new Snow White movie because I can recognize it is very hard to adapt Snow White into a film because when you look back at the fairy tale history of like the classic writings by like Grimm and stuff, Snow White really didn't have a personality, so giving her any form of personality kind of just makes it awkward to begin with because that's not what we associate with the Snow White story. We associate it more with the dwarves and the prince waking her up with a kiss and not really her as a character. And some of them, and I did see the movie. I did see the live action Snow White, and I think it's better than people give it credit for. I think it did get kind of hate bombed by anti SJW people online, but it was kind of meh at the same time. Yeah, I thought it was interesting to change the love interest from a prince to just a regular guy, but the songs, I think my big issues were the songs in this film. And like the Evil Queen song that Gal Gadot sings, I can't remember a single word from it, but it was, from what I remember of the vibes, it was just like, I'm pretty, I'm pretty, I'm prettier than you, which is so stupid. It is just stupid. It is. I did like the message of the film. I did like, I am a sucker for movies and stories that go, kindness rules, but I think Snow White is like, in terms of live action Disney remakes, it's not the worst. I think Lilo and Stitch now holds the worst live action remake title, but it is not the best either. And trying to modernize Snow White is really hard to do. There's only like one good adaptation of Snow White I've ever seen. Let me see if I can pull it up. And this is going to be the film student in me coming out, but it is sorry, I'm gonna film. Yes, Rachel was done so dirty in that movie. What was that wig? What was that rig? All right, but shout out to, this is going to be a very specific film. So this is a film, it's Blancanieves. It's a film from Spain. It is a black and white silent film made in 2013 that I watched for my film class a couple years ago. It is a retelling of Snow White with her as a bullfighter, which you think, wow, what? Snow White is a bullfighter? But it is really good. It is really good. And it's really cool to see like a silent film made in 2013. That is just like really cool. It's really cool. I would recommend finding it if you can. You can find it online. Yes, it is very good. Yes. Yes, it is. It was very good. And I also I do love how Snow White looks in this film. It's like, I can't remember the specific time period, but it's not modern time either. It's still set in ye old days, and she doesn't fall in love with a prince. There's this like love story with this she joins a traveling circus, and she falls in love with this, I think he's a dwarf. I think he's one of the dwarves in the film. I am not Spanish. I am the kind of white person that is very weak to spice. Like pepperoni on pizza is too spicy for me. I am white. But this is a good movie. And I'm not against watching films from other places either. I think it's cool to broaden your horizons and watch other movies, as long as they have English subtitles, because I don't know Spanish. But yeah, really good movie. Really recommend. This whole film, I thought this character, he looked a lot like if you put all the Jonas Brothers together. I feel like that's what his face looks like, and I don't know why I think that, but that's just what I thought when I was watching the film. But it is really good. It is really good. It is really good, and it's fun. It's fun to watch a modern silent film. And the shots are all beautiful. It is just so good. I don't want to play the full trailer in case I get copyright. I'm just saying I would want to see more modern princes who are more sincere and kind-hearted and do their best. Yes. And I'm not talking about like the kind of himbo sincerism. I think just having a guy who's nice would be really great. I think not like a nice guy, but a nice guy, if that makes any sense. You know, people are kind. I think it's hard to forget that sometimes. We don't need to all be jaded and cynical. I know it's a trend to be jaded and cynical and hashtag relatable to people, but I think for kids, showing off kindness is kind of cool. Cool. I tried something there and I don't think it worked very well. But if you are, Paper, looking for a movie where a modern Disney character is kind, it got review bombed, and it's kind of a odd suggestion, but it is relating to my video coming out on Friday. Strange World, the 2022 release. Strange World is pretty good, and I would argue Ethan is probably a kinder character that you would like to see. I would definitely argue that Ethan is a very kind character. So if you haven't seen that yet, it's a good movie. I think it's a good movie. I think the main issue people had with it is that it wasn't what they were thinking it would be, and it was also marketed like trash, but it was kind of not what people thought it would be, but it is a really good movie. So maybe check it out, just saying, and watch my video Friday. I don't know. How long have I been live for? Oh my god, I've been live for an hour and a half already? Wow. An hour and a half to break down a 15-minute video. That's YouTube for you, ain't it? Alright, ending the stream in a few minutes probably, because I'm tired and I have work tomorrow morning. But, yeah, Blancanieves 2013 silent film. I don't like this video. I don't like this video a lot. There are some points that I agree with. And yeah. I did see Strange World. I just felt like they could have done more with the love story, and I feel like the grandfather was a bit of a jerk. Yes. All of these conservatives were all up in this horrified nightmare over a gay character, but they don't even kiss, you know? They don't even kiss at the end of the film. They could have kissed. That would have been cute. And I think the grandfather being a bit of a jerk is part of his character, because, he's a macho man. He's a macho adventuring man. Yeah, it was a fun stream. Thanks for hanging out with me today. Yeah. Haha. I love my transitions. I worked hard on this. I'm very proud with how it turned out. Yeah. Guess I'm gonna sign off soon. Let's get some tunes to wind down with. Right. Oh, that's loud. Yeah. I'll probably do maybe another stream next week. Maybe stream Deltarune, because that just came out today. That would be fun. Fun little video game stream. I would probably want to start with chapter 3, because, everyone's streaming Deltarune right now. But, yeah, this was fun. Awesome. Thank y'all for hanging out with me today. Yeah, and I'll see you maybe next Wednesday, maybe the Wednesday after that. I don't know. We'll see.